What was it like winning $500,000?
Well, I didn't technically win 500,000,
Yeah.
but it was I don't know. I think that it's not what you would really expect. I mean, my take home was 240,000.
Mhm.
But I had gotten a couple paydays like that in the last couple of years, so it didn't really hit me necessarily like as hard as you would expect. And I also gave 150,000 of that as soon as the wire came into restitution, to bring that down. Because from my court case, I had about 500,000 restitution.
Mhm.
Now my balance today is about 197,000
Today.
today. Yeah, that's after MrBeast, after paying money from my business and everything like that. So that brings it down to that.
So how do restitution payments look? Let's say you fraud someone out of $500,000, you get $500,000 in restitution, go to prison, you get out. Could you just file for bankruptcy? Like how many payments do you need to make? How long of a term is it? Or is it a certain percentage of your income? How does it look?
So you can't file for bankruptcy on federal restitution. I'm not sure how it works in the state. At your sentencing, your judge is going to order a payment plan through the term of your supervised release. So, for example, Wolf of Wall Street, during his supervised release, was 50% of his income. Mine was $1,000 a month. Usually, after that supervised release ends, it's called the Financial Litigation Unit. They're like the U.S. Attorney team that goes after civil stuff because it becomes civil after. They kind of hold that payment plan to the standard, or you'll negotiate with them or talk to them. The worst thing you could do is avoid them and not pay. So when I got off supervised release, I was paying the $1,000 a month once my business started or after I left Whole Foods. And I met with them and we agreed on the $1,000 a month. But when I get bigger chunks of money, then I pay more towards it. I think the biggest thing is just showing trust. Because they can go after you. Like if you're not paying, they can sanction you. They can levy your bank accounts and do things like that. What they say is that the judgment's good for 20 years, and then after that, it kind of falls off. But at the rate I'm going, it's going to be paid before the 20-year mark. But you look at a guy like Jordan, and he still owes like $98 million, and that case was, 20-something years ago. I read somewhere that he's paying like 10 grand a month.
So who do you mostly owe it to?
Just investors that were a part of the case. There's about 12 people.
Are they like your friends?
Old friends, yeah, friends, parents of those friends. I had raised money for a concert business. Concert business is the worst business you could go get into. Overpromised, underdelivered, which was okay in the sense where if I had just been honest and said, I lost your money, it would have been okay. It would have been at best maybe a civil thing, but it turned out to be I lied about those losses and said I made money when I didn't. And in essence, a Ponzi scheme kind of grew from that because I was taking loans from some people to pay off others just to continue to lie and buy time to pay off their investments.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How did you get into doing this?
So my dad is a caterer, and I grew up like going to the Harry Potter premieres and going to like cool events in New York City because he would cater these events, and I always had a passion for that. And I had a passion for business at a young age. I would sell candy out of my backpack in middle school, and I would have lemonade stands, and I was always like a hustler in that sense. Then where it really starts is my beginning of sophomore year of high school. Me and my best friend foamed these cars in our neighborhood. We lived in this gated neighborhood where there's like a president and a vice president, and they said you can't ride golf carts. And we had golf carts at the time, and we felt like offended, so we took insulation foamed their cars at night, and got caught for it and got sentenced to community service. And my community service project was I came up with it to sell like these Live Strong type bracelets for $1 a piece and call it Fight for the Homeless. That kind of grew. I raised a couple $1,000s for charity, and I decided to make a school dance from it. And I made a school dance, organized it, rented the venue, did all these things just as a sophomore in high school, and realized that if you could get 300 kids to pay $20 to, go to a school dance, this could be a business. A few months later, when I turned 16, I start renting out this local club in Danbury called Tuxedo Junction, doing teen parties. I called it like the Halloween rave, the Christmas rave, a paint party where we threw washable paint like a day glow at kids. And I would make 10 or 15 grand a night, once a month, all in cash, doing these like teen parties, no alcohol and that type of thing. That's when I decided I wasn't going to go to college, and that I had this business, called myself This Is Where It's At Entertainment, kind of like a play on words that this is where it's going to be at for the night. And got my first LLC like my junior year of high school, and then I thought the next step for club promotion was concerts. And the very first concert I ever booked was Big Sean in Danbury. And then after that, started booking other concerts.
Did he show up?
He did, yeah. I only had one person not show up. That was Chief Keef.
But you had Big Sean show up, and how much did you have to pay him to?
That show he was $40,000 at the time.
$40,000.
This was in 2012, yeah.
And how much did you make from that?
That we lost money. So the concert business is so tough, especially in the arenas. And it's not a brick and mortar location. So when you're a promoter and you're renting a location and you lose money, you don't even really have a brand to show for it. At least if you have a brick and mortar, people are getting familiar with the space, with the event. You don't have to start over every time. Never had event insurance. We did everything wrong you could possibly do. I mean, we were kids. We were 18 years old, 17 years old.
And you booked Big Sean?
Yeah.
Did you talk to him?
No, that day I met him, but not to book him. But yeah, I met him that day, got a picture with him, dealt with his tour manager. I booked 21 Savage, Chief Keef.
How much was 21 Savage?
21 Savage, I gave $24,000 to.
And
in
Chief
2016.
Keef, how much was he?
He was $25,000 at the time. Didn't show up though.
What happens if they just don't show up?
In a case like that, it's tough because you're going through a management team. They're hidden by different LLCs. You're going to spend more money than what it takes.
Why pay them up front, or why not pay half now, half later?
We paid half up front, the 12.5, but then you have where we lost money was security, the venue. He literally sent out a tweet. So first the show's at 8 p.m. The manager calls us at 7 saying he missed his flight. He'll be on the next one. Then an hour later goes by. We can't find him. We don't hear from them till the next day where he sends out a tweet saying, sorry, Connecticut, wasn't the promoter's fault. That was it. Never got that money back. I booked the Chainsmokers, Steve Aoki, Adventure Club.
How much were the Chainsmokers?
For that night, it was a Thanksgiving Eve party. This is right after they dropped Selfie, but before they dropped Don't Let Me Down. November 2014, I gave him $25,000.
What about Steve Aoki?
Steve Aoki, I wasn't the personal one booking him, but I think he got like $75,000 for that club because that was a smaller capacity. It was at my club though.
Did you ever make money from any concert?
Yeah, there's plenty. You know who Blau is?
Mm-hmm.
I did him a couple times. We had money with him.
Oh,
yeah, Justin, really?
He lives down the street.
Dude, no way. He knows who I am.
Really?
Yeah. So he was the very first big DJ I booked. So it was second DJ. I did GTA at Tuxedo Junction. So he was good friends with this company called Envy Concepts that did a lot of shows with him.
Yeah.
That's how I got all the big names. So I booked him twice at my venue. And I put up a post before I got into content, and he had responded back to it. But he's a really nice guy and stuff. So anyways, we did him on a Wednesday night, had 2,000 people there, packed out place. I'll show you the pictures after. It's really cool. He's his arms spread out. It was it was a small club. And we'd get these artists because they would play in Boston. Then they would play at Shrine and Foxwoods in Connecticut. Then they would hit Danbury, which is an hour away. And then they would go to New York City. And because we were an all-ages club with no liquor, we could pretty much do any night.
Where did things go wrong?
So things went wrong with my business before I owned the nightclub. It was the concert promotion where I was taking money from investors, promising them a guaranteed profit. So say I went to you and I said, hey, man, give me $20,000. I'm going to give you a guaranteed profit back because I was so confident these shows were going to work out, and you'll get it back after the concert. Well, if the concerts all worked out, everything would have been great, but they failed miserably. When I booked Tyga for $40,000 at this arena show, there was an incident. Remember Schmacked? So it was a big college tour.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so there was an incident where they got this bar shut down. The venue lost its liquor license, a whole big issue. And the dean of the campus at the University of Rhode Island didn't want buses from outside schools coming to the venue. So we lost 2,000 ticket sales in the matter of days from kids from other schools. So I lost on this Tyga show. I paid $100,000 for the whole show with production and everything. My wire transfer after the show was for $16,000. So I lost $84,000 that night in one night. So all of these things were piling up. And simultaneously, I had this electronics business where we were buying these Beats by Dre for $50 that turned out to be fake. So I was promising people a guaranteed profit. I'd say, hey, give me $20,000 as a loan and I'll give you a 50% return on that. I didn't know that 50% was extremely high. I was just basing it off of what we could sell the product for. Beats by Dre, $50, selling it for $400. Yeah. You could afford that. So it pretty soon quickly turned into that business getting defunct and I'm borrowing from one person, paying off another. I didn't have credit at the time. I'm thinking, okay, this is a loan. I could use one loan to pay off another loan. Like you borrow from one bank to pay off another bank or get a loan for another loan. And then the whole thing collapses after a few months. All the concerts failed. The electronics business failed. And I'm like 1.2 million in debt with the interest, with all like the promise payments. And this was in January of 2014 or of 2013 or December of 2013.
What was it like having all that money come in your bank account, though?
I remember I was 18 years old. It was July 2013, 2 months after graduation, and I had like $600,000 in my bank account, my business bank account. Knew nothing about accounting. I'm this kid, I would wear a suit and tie to high school thinking I was like this business guy with a briefcase, and just I have a baby face now, so imagine me back then walking into a Wells Fargo, depositing all this money like no one really batted an eye. It was just an interesting scene, and we did stupid things with it, like we bought a pair of jet skis, thinking it was like a company car, but company jet skis. We did like a couple trips with like other investors and dinners and stuff and clothes, but for the most part, it was just a lot of stupid decisions that should not have been made. And we just didn't know how to run the business.
How did you get caught?
So all of this happens. I get a lawyer friend in December of 2013. Keep in mind, this lasted 6 months, this whole thing. And he sends out letters to all of the investors, like 15 of them, 12 or 15 of them, saying, hey, the company, we called ourselves WB Investments at the time, is like basically bankrupt, and we're going to analyze to see what you owe. And his logic, or what you're owed, and his logic was, don't give anyone a profit, just give them their out-of-pocket back. So say you invested $20,000, you had gotten back $10,000 in payments, you're really only out-of-pocket $10,000. But as the investor, you're like, whoa, hold on a minute. I was promised like all of this interest. So you think you're owed $50,000. So everyone got pissed, and they went to the local police department. I went in with the lawyer, met with the local police department. They were kind of fishing around. They escalated it to the Department of Banking, where they subpoenaed me. I didn't know we had a Department of Banking, and I thought this whole thing just needed to be cleared up. So I went there without a lawyer, testified for like 5 hours. This is when I was 18 years old in 2014 in April. After that meeting, they say there's 2 gentlemen there waiting to meet with you, and I'm sitting in this room, smaller in this room in like a closet, and 2 guys in old suits come out, and they show me their IDs, and they say they're postal inspectors, and they start asking me questions, and I didn't know that they had listened into the whole interview and that they had very targeted questions towards me. At the end of the interview, they served me a target letter from the FBI saying you're under a federal investigation for wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, a bunch of things. And at that point, that's when I got a federal attorney, a criminal defense attorney. A couple months after that, I'm 19 now. We met with the U.S. Attorney's Office for this thing called a reverse proffer. A proffer is where you give the government information about like the case or co-defendants. A reverse proffer is where they say what they have on you to kind of, look at what the case is. And I'm in this big room at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Connecticut with like FBI agents, U.S. attorneys, interns from the U.S. Attorney's Office, and IRS agents, because the IRS was on the case too. And they laid out this whole case, and basically I was an and I didn't budge. That was actually the night I had the Blau show, and I said, hey, I got a sold out show with Blau tonight. This doesn't really matter. And I was just very arrogant and cocky and that kind of started the whole war. And then in January 2015, I got indicted 5 o'clock in the morning. FBI agents, IRS, the state troopers, local police department, banging on my door at my parents' house at 5 a.m. I had just gotten back from the casino because I had a little gambling habit at the time. And they woke me up. I'm in my boxers, and they hauled me out of the house in handcuffs and in cowboy boots because they needed me to be in shoes without laces. And I was in the high school musicals throughout high school, so I had those in my closet.
Did you have any contracts with the people who gave you money, or was it all just word of mouth?
I had contracts. I actually went, that was one of our defenses at trial. I went to an attorney, told him exactly what we were doing, and he wrote me this 1-page contract saying I waived the right to usury, like usury claims, and that these were loans, just loans for business purposes. 1-page document, and that was it.
So in hindsight, had you just said nothing when they started probing you, would you have gone to jail?
I don't think so, because I made their whole case for them. I gave them all the documents, everything. I put it all together, names, phone numbers. But even before that, all I had to do was just say, I lost your money, and there wouldn't have been any fraud. I just started lying profusely because I didn't want to let anyone down.
Do you feel bad for what you did? Or do you think that the punishment didn't really fit the crime?
I definitely felt bad about losing everyone's money. I would have pled guilty right then and there if it was no jail time. I went to trial because my plea deal was for like 4 years. It was ridiculous. I was 18 and they wanted to send me to prison for 4 years over a very relatively small amount compared to what they normally prosecute.
Yeah, that's the part that was confusing because it seems like the amount of resources that they went after for the amount of loss that's there, like they would spend more money on your case than would cost just to put you to work and have you pay these people back.
The
right?
cost to keep you and send you to prison for
Right.
that long could have just paid the restitution.
Oh, at the cost of the trial. I mean, keep in mind, this is a 1 month trial. They were flying out people from all over the country because everyone was at college at this point. Agents, there was a task force. Like, it didn't make sense. I think they thought it was bigger than what it was. I think they thought it was in the millions because normally with these fraud cases, there's always more to be discovered, and there wasn't. And it was a very quick period of time. And I think they thought I was going to take a plea deal, which I would have if it was no jail time. So that's what kind of got them pissed off. And what pissed them off even more is that while my whole case is going on, I open up this club, Tuxedo Junction, that had now went out of business from the old owners. I take it over and I'm doing all these concerts like with Blau and Zed's Dead and the Chainsmokers, and all while on bond and on bail and, taking the government to trial.
Were you making good money during that period of time?
It was hit or miss because the problem was I had this new business, which was completely underfunded. I mean, literally, there would be nights where I was taking ticket money and running next door to the dollar store to get sodas to fill up the bar to sell it. I was so underfunded. And the problem is that it was a brand new business and I had some early losses, like as in any new business, losses early on, like a couple concerts failed miserably. So say I made 10 grand with Blau and then I would do another show that would lose 15. I'm already in a deficit from the past. I'm underfunded. I have no funding and I'm taking on more debt. So there would be periods of time like the Chainsmokers, I owed them 20 grand for like 6 months. And I'm like going to the casino to gamble to win money to pay their agent so I didn't get blacklisted. I was selling equipment at the club. I was doing whatever I had to do to make that happen.
What was your game of choice?
I'd play Baccarat. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. But
Baccarat.
Baccarat.
Yeah.
It was So this is what ultimately sent me to prison. I would go to this casino called Empire City in Yonkers, and it was electronic table because I wasn't 21 yet. So I couldn't go to the Connecticut casino. And I would take like $500 and play this electronic machine, and I would ride the streaks. So when it's going all player, all banker, I would just continuously double down on that. You can only bet up to 2 grand, but I would just keep putting that, and doubling it down. There'd be days I'd make turn 500 into $30,000. That's how I was funding the club in the later days.
How did you get so lucky? Because you could lose that.
I mean, you could say that about how did I get cast in MrBeast and how did I do everything I've been able to accomplish, over that. Luck is a big part of it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no skill. It was just a part of my, I guess, destiny, the way I look at it. But one of the conditions of my supervised release for bail, I had a $500,000 or $250,000 bail, was that I couldn't go out of state without permission. So what ends up happening is they find out because one of the guys that was working for me snitched on me and wanted to take the club from me. And they told the FBI after I got convicted at trial that I was going out of state to gamble. So they did an investigation. A month before sentencing, the judge revoked my bond. That's what really pissed the judge off and sent me to federal prison. He told me the party's over. It was a whole press release on it, and I got put in a detention center a month before sentencing.
Do you think you needed that to happen to put you in place or to teach you a lesson? Could you have been where you are today had that not happened?
So I think mentally, I could have done it probably in half the time to really figure life out.
Yeah.
But I think those 3 years are the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it gave me the prison story that helped me build the platform I have. Because my prison experience was just crazy, from all the different prisons I was in to all the incidents that happened to every little thing. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I gotten a year and a day. Or my dad and I were talking about this the other day. If I had just gotten house arrest or probation, me and you wouldn't be here today. My whole story came from prison. I always thought my story, I remember being in prison, trying to write a book, trying to be Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street, getting my story option and stuff, thinking how cool it was that a 18-year-old owned a nightclub and booked all these acts. But then it's Billy McFarland kind of already did that. He had that story, the Fire Fest thing and whatnot. And it it wasn't it. It wasn't hitting. It was the second when I started talking about prison from my perspective that everything changed. So I needed that. That was the best thing that could ever happen to me.